Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy Sim. I'm your host of the shoot around from Nothing But Knicks. And today, we're talking about Leon Rose. Because Leon Rose, ladies and gentlemen, is on the clock. I know he's only been here a year, so you're probably calling me crazy. But he's on the clock, ladies and gentlemen. The performance of this team, going 41-21, grabbing the 4th seed in the playoffs. And I know they flamed out, but it pushed the timeline forward. So now Leon Rose has to perform this offseason because fans expect for this team to get better. Fans expect for this team to move forward. And I love everything that he's done so far. The way he built up the front office. The hiring of Tom Thibodeau. The signings he did in the offseason, while they didn't make anybody excited, they fit. And it worked. So when we look back, we've got to say he did well. And he kept the flexibility of the cap space. And then at the deadline, stayed patient. Fans like myself were asking him to make a move so we could have more firepower in the playoffs. But he stayed patient because he didn't feel that there was a move to be made that was really going to push the Knicks forward or make them that much better. So he stayed patient. The Knicks performed well. Now, we have expectations. Expectations, ladies and gentlemen. So there are a few things that I think Leon Rose needs to do to begin this offseason or to kick off this offseason the correct way or have a successful offseason. Let me say that. Number one, keep them or dump them, ladies and gentlemen. Which players are moving forward with the team? This is important because there are a lot of one-year deals on this team. Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, Derrick Rose, Elfrid Payton. One-year deals. How are you going to move forward? That's the first thing that Leon Rose and his front office has to do is decide who are we keeping? Who do we want to keep? Let's put it like that. And I know there's a lot of opinions out there, and we're going to hash those out because I have a whole series on YouTube called Keep 'em or Dump 'em. So make sure you check that out. Next, how does the team view Julius Randle? And that's a big question, ladies and gentlemen. Julius Randle had a phenomenal season. Phenomenal season. One of the most improved players, probably going to be on the All-NBA team. Made the All-Star team for the first time. Didn't do well in the playoffs. But Julius Randle had a phenomenal season. But the question is, can Julius Randle make another leap? He took a tremendous leap. He went from a player that many thought was a good role player, very good role player, to an all-star. And for this season, an all-NBA player, possibly a third-team all-NBA player. Now, can he make another leap to say, I'm a number one guy on a championship team? There's a lot of people that say no. There's a lot of people that say Julius Randle is a second guy on a championship team, or maybe even a third guy on a championship team. It's hard to say because he had a great season, but in the playoffs, he didn't play well. He didn't step up to the plate. Now, if you look at the history of Julius Randle, he's been able to learn from his experiences and come back better. Can he do it again? Because if he does it again, then he steps up another level. The Knicks have to decide, is Julius Randle our guy? Do we build around him? Do we build with him? Do we bring in a player better than him? This is a big decision. A big decision because it dictates the way that you move forward. And the draft and free agency dictates a lot of things. So the Knicks have to make a decision about Julius Randle. They can pick up his option for next season. So you have a little bit more time. But then they've got to decide, do we offer Julius Randle an extension? And how much money do we offer Julius Randle? I think what will happen is they'll pick up his option and they'll offer him an extension, a short-term extension, right? 2 years with a player option in the third year or something like that. Give Julius Randle time to prove himself. Also, they'll get a player who's an all-star. He should be an all-star next season at the very least. He's playing for the New York Knicks. At a cheaper salary. Maybe $25 million a season for the next couple of years. That'll give them time to see how Julius Randle grows and also preserve some cap space to be able to pull in another big-time name if they need to. So that's a question that Leon Rose and his front office have to answer this offseason. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, stay updated with everything going on with the New York Knicks this summer, from the draft to trades to free agency, on my brand new series, Inside the Offseason. And this is the very first video in that series. You can find it on my YouTube channel. Make sure you go check it out. Now let's get on to number 3. What does the team do with the 19th, 21st, and 32nd draft picks? The Knicks also have the 58th pick, but I mentioned these 3 specifically, and here's why. The 19th and the 21st picks are both in the first round. If the Knicks draft those players, they have to pay them. It's guaranteed money for those players. Now, the 32nd pick is technically a second rounder, but in a deep draft, it can be looked at as a late first rounder. Except the money is not guaranteed to that player, and the amount is significantly less than a player drafted in the first round. So that's a coveted pick. What do the Knicks do? Are they going to draft all 4 players? It's hard for me to see Tom Thibodeau drafting 4 rookies while still having Obi Toppin, who's in his second year, Emmanuel Quickley in his second year, R.J. Barrett in his third year. I don't see that with Tom Thibodeau. So do the Knicks package some of these picks and try to move up in that first round? Or do they package these picks and try to trade for an established star? I'm not going to say any names. I'm going to throw them out there. We'll save that for another video. But what the Knicks do here is important. Leon Rose, the front office. I say it again, they're on the clock. It's an important offseason. And the draft, it's an important part of the offseason, ladies and gentlemen, because the Knicks have 4 draft picks. How do we use them? How do we use them? Number 4, the Knicks must sign or trade for players that continues the build but moves the needle forward for this team. This is a tough one. Very tough. Because the Knicks really need to assess the season, figure out, everything that I listed, right? Figure out who you want. How do you view Julius Randle? What do we do during the draft? And then start to trade for players or sign players. The reason why I say trade for players is because with the players that the Knicks need on this team, not all of the players, but maybe some of the star power that they need on this team, you're probably not going to get it through free agency. So you may need to make some trades. So how the Knicks move during this offseason, during the sign and trade period, the free agency period, is critical for the growth of this team, because you can't just sell out and just bring in all kinds of players all willy-nilly and think it's going to fit. You got to be more strategic. You built something. You built a foundation. You grew some chemistry. You got to bring in players that want to play Tom Thibodeau's style and that does not disrupt the chemistry that you built. Strategic. And this is why it's such an important offseason for the New York Knicks and the reason why Leon Rose is on the clock. Because he's got to build this team, continue to build it the right way, but add the pieces that move the team forward for next season. Because everybody, from the Knicks fans to the Knicks players to Leon Rose to James Dolan, expects the Knicks to be better next season. And the number one priority for the Knicks this offseason is a point guard, a general that can lead his troops into battle. We also need shooters. We need a 3-man that can post up in the mid-post, pull up off the dribble, catch and shoot. A dynamic 3-man, slash to the basket. We're going to need bench players. It's a tough offseason, ladies and gentlemen. But look, the Knicks have flexibility to make things happen. That's what's so impressive about what the Knicks did this season and being the 4th seed and then going into next season. You can see the projected Knicks salary cap. The salary cap for 21-22 league-wide is projected to be about $112 million. The Knicks have $49.7 million in committed salary. Their rookie holds, if they do decide to draft and keep those players, is about $5.2 million. That leaves the Knicks with approximately $57 million in cap space. Now, don't hold me tight to this. These are roundabout figures. Just keep it in your brain that the Knicks are going to have between $50 and $60 million in cap space. And that and this $57 million even includes Julius Randle's option. So if the Knicks pick up Julius Randle's option, they still have $57 million, or between $50 and $60 million. So the Knicks have salary cap space, ladies and gentlemen. Salary cap space to make some things work, to sign players, to absorb contracts. They can make some things work. They have trade capital. You got young players, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly, Kevin Knox, Luka Vildoza. Kevin Knox is one of those guys. Keep him or dump him. Got draft picks, like I mentioned, the 19th, 21st, 32nd, 58th. In 2022, they got a first and a second. In 2023, they have 2 first-round draft picks. One of them is a Dallas pick that's top 10 protected. Then they have 8 second-round draft picks in 2023. And let me tell you something. Those second-round draft picks in 2023, they will be coveted, and this is why. In 2023, high school players are going to be allowed to make the leap from high school to the NBA, which means there are going to be players that's been in college for 4 years. There are going to be players that decided to go to school for 1 year. There are going to be sophomores. There are going to be juniors, all coming out, and then you add in high school kids. That's going to be a deep draft. And the Knicks have 8 second-round picks in that draft. So the Knicks have trade capital. What do we do, ladies and gentlemen? Leon Rose, you are on the clock. You're on the clock, my man. Ladies and gentlemen, please, leave your comments below. I want to know what you think. Pay attention to what's going on with NBK coming up. We got keep him or dump him. But we're breaking down these players. What should Leon Rose do? Who should he keep? Who should he dump? We'll be having videos from inside the offseason all summer long talking about moves that the Knicks did make, could make, should make, might make. We're going to have some draft special shows coming up. Pay attention to that. Next week is the NBA Combine. A lot of things going on at NBK, ladies and gentlemen, including a draft party on July 29th in Atlantic City at the Flagship Resort. Pay attention to details coming very soon. This has been the Shoot Around with your boy Sim. I'm out, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to you soon.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.